Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to explore the possibility of trading for Trey Lance. A national commentator thinks the Bears should explore that option as a backup to Justin Fields. But first, I'm Harrison Graham. Let's get into today's injury news and notes from Bears practice. And it continues. Guess who left practice today? Colin Cowherd, another key member of this offense, as he's the latest Bears player to get banged up. And of course, we don't know the severity because we never do, because the Bears are super hush-hush about this stuff. Zach Pearson had the note that Kmet left practice today early. He rode out of the Walter Payton Center on a cart. Kmet was able to walk to the cart that was brought into the Walter Payton Center. So there's a lot of bad reporting that happens these days with the, oh, he got carted off. Well, this is not a he was down for 10 minutes and they put him on a stretcher onto a cart. No, like they were checking him out on the sideline, then they brought the cart to take him to the trainer's room. So who knows what the severity is. But my instant reaction is, can we make it stop? I mean, like, we can't even get through a practice without someone leaving banged up. Now, luckily, outside of Tevin Jenkins' injury, which is going to be 4 to 6 weeks, it sounds like, it doesn't sound like any of these other injuries are super severe, but they're adding up. And if Kmet's injury is even mildly serious, let's just say his week 1 status is in doubt. And look, we're 18, 19 days away, whatever. There's a lot of time between now and then. But if you go into week 1 without Kmet, you're a little thin, right? Like Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis as your top 2 for a week or 2 could hold it down. But is Steven Carlson making the 53? Maybe you're elevating him from the practice squad. So we'll definitely monitor this. I like this tight end room with your 1-2-3 punch. But if you lose your 1, all of a sudden it feels a lot different, because Colin Cowherd has turned himself into one of the better tight ends in the NFL. I think he's firmly a top 10 tight end in this league, coming off of back-to-back really solid seasons with 110 combined catches and over 1,150 yards. Broke out as a touchdown threat last year with 7. Like, this is a big part of your offense, both in the passing game and in the running game. So you need Kmet out there. And the reason I say make it stop is it's not just Kmet. You got injuries, guys missing practice everywhere. Treston Ebner, not out there. Chase Claypool, he's been out a while. Velus Jones, nope. Dante Pettis, Joe Reed, Mercedes Lewis, probably just a vet situation there, but he wasn't out there. Colin Cowherd, he left early. Tevin Jenkins, we know he's out a while. Nate Davis, Lucas Patrick. Yannick Ngakoue hasn't practiced at all this week. Is he nicked up? Matt Eberflus said yesterday that he expects him to play week 1, but is this like a veteran ramp-up period? I'm not sure. DeMarcus Walker, Rasheem Green, Dylan Cole, DeMarquise Gates, Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, Josh Blackwell. By my math, that's 18 players who did not practice today. And by the way, most of those 18, without going back and looking at them, 13, 14 at least key contributors, and a lot of them starters, projected starters. That's not great. Make it stop. We got to get healthy, folks. Like, I know, how much longer? Like, what's the cutoff until we say, okay, we're officially concerned? Because I keep saying, oh, it's not serious. I keep hearing like, oh, it's just a day-to-day. Well, eventually your day-to-day is going to be, well, we're like 2 days away from week 1. We're not there yet. We're 18 days away from week 1, but a week from now, you're 11 days away. Like, you got to get guys back on the practice field before week 1. And, oh, by the way, you got a preseason game. Like, do you even play Justin Fields at this point with this amount of guys out? I don't know. It seems like a risk. We'll have to wait and see what the plan is. Now, if you're tired of all of the injuries, because clearly I am, type me. Sound off in the comments. Spam me down below, because I'm pretty fed up with it. I get it. It's football. Guys get hurt. But, geez, man, can we get through a practice without someone getting nicked up, especially a key player like Colin Cowherd? Yesterday it was Darnell Wright. Today it's Colin Cowherd. It's not great. I don't love that at all. All right, before we jump into the Trey Lance stuff, if we get 20 new subs on today's video, we will debut our weekly Thursday live shows tomorrow. We were maybe going to start next week, as I announced our new live schedule earlier this week. But if we get 20 new subscribers today, we will debut tomorrow and go live tomorrow and every Thursday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 Central Time. So join us by hitting that subscribe button for daily Bears coverage. Okay. Let's go ahead and get to the Trey Lance stuff, as I think it's pretty clear that Trey Lance is done in San Francisco, as the 49ers named Sam Darnold as their backup quarterback to Brock Purdy, and Jeremy Fowler says they're exploring options for Trey Lance, which to me probably includes the trade market. Now, Colin Cowherd, who kind of been off his rocker recently. He keeps going back and forth on takes, but I thought he had an interesting one here when it comes to Lance and the Bears. He said, I would bring in Trey Lance and see what I got if I was an NFL team. Kid is big and he can move. Here's a team I'll throw out there, Chicago. Who backs up Justin Fields? Trey Lance can run the Justin Fields offense. I want my backup to share the qualities of my starter. I don't think Trey Lance is as good as Justin Fields. I think Justin's the future. That's a shift from Cowherd. But you can move the pocket with Trey. So if I'm Chicago, I'd give up a 5th or 6th round pick for Lance. Certainly a lot to unpack here, right? Like there's a lot of different angles, some pros and cons that we're going to dive into here in a moment. I think first we need to look at the draft picks that Chicago currently has for next year. And Cowherd says throw a 5th or 6th round pick. And look, like that's not giving up a ton, right? Like you throw your 6th round pick for Trey Lance. Like in a vacuum, that could be a risk worth taking because it's a minor risk for, maybe potentially a big reward. You never know what Trey Lance could become, but at the same time, there's reservations, which again is why we're going to go through some pros and cons. But first, would you trade for Trey Lance? Type T for trade, or you can type P for pass. What would you do? And then we'll ask this question again here in a little bit after I go through my pros and cons. But I want to hear it from you guys. Would you trade for Trey Lance? Type T for trade or P for pass. Trading for Lance would certainly cost the Bears some money, and if you want to save some money, Rocket Money is the app for you. Download it today at rocketmoney.com/bearsnow, as Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. The 49ers don't want Trey Lance anymore, so they're canceling that subscription. They'll monitor your spending and help lower your bills as well, all in one place. Most people think they're spending $80 per month on subscriptions, when in reality, that number is closer to $200. When you're signed up for so many things like streaming services you used to watch for one show or free trials for delivery you don't use anymore, it's very easy to lose track of your spending. When I downloaded Rocket Money a few months ago, I didn't realize I was still subscribed to some digital golf service so I could watch like the US Open a couple years ago. It's $100 a year, so it was about to charge me again. I canceled it through Rocket Money, saved myself $100 for the next year. You can do that as well. RocketMoney.com/bearsnow. Download the app today by clicking that link that supports us, and it's going to help your pockets as well. RocketMoney.com/bearsnow. That link is in the comments and in the description. Start saving money with Rocket Money. Don't waste any more money as you go. Okay, here are some pros of trading for Trey Lance. The 49ers offense is very similar. Luke Getsy's scheme is, quote unquote, off the Shanahan coaching tree, right? Like very similar principles, wide zone rushing attack. Like Justin Fields, Trey Lance, you can get him on the move. The concepts are very similar because when you think about this normally, when you add a quarterback this close to the season, big learning curve to learning the offense. Well, say what you want about Trey Lance as you look at his career numbers. They obviously haven't been great. Learning the language of the offense and the play concepts, in theory, should not be that difficult. Now, this isn't the easiest offense to learn, but again, the principles of the Shanahan offense and the Getsy scheme are very similar, so that is a potential pro. Like, the learning curve wouldn't be that steep in theory. Number 2, I kind of mentioned this already. Trey Lance does have decent mobility. Colin Cowherd made that point. Now, I do want to make one thing very, very clear when it comes to Trey Lance and his mobility. Let's not get confused here. Trey Lance is mobile, but he is not anywhere close to Justin Fields as a runner. I mean not close. He's not as fast. He's not as shifty. He doesn't escape as well out of the pocket. Like the footwork gets clunky there, but he is mobile. He can run around. He can scramble. He can do some of those things. And I think after that leg injury too, he lost a little mobility, but he's not a statue. He can move around. Like it's not like he's a 5'40" guy. So yeah, you can move the pocket like Cowherd mentioned and do things like that. But if you think he's a threat to rush for 1,000 yards, that's just not who Trey Lance is. Third pro. The Bears' backup QB situation is, you fill in the blank. I mean, bad, undesirable, unproven. On paper, P.J. Walker was supposed to be this vet dual threat guy that stylistically fit as Fields' backup, a guy who played with DJ Moore so he could have value in that regard as well. But P.J. Walker's been terrible. I mean, there's no way around it. There's a reason we're talking about Tyson Bagent potentially being the backup because he's looked really good as an undrafted free agent rookie, and Walker has looked bad. He just has. But even with Bagent, when you're talking about this Lance situation to potentially bring him in, like, at least Lance has played a little bit. He's in the third year of his career. Now, I'll be clear. Even if you trade for Trey Lance, which I don't think is a great possibility, but I just want to explore through the pros and cons like we're doing, I would still want to keep Bagent. But I'm probably more interested in Trey Lance than P.J. Walker at this point. So let me know. Who would you rather have on this 53-man roster? Type TL for Trey Lance or type PJ for P.J. Walker. Get your votes in down in the comment section. Now, with pros, there are certainly cons here. And the first one here is, while it's not a huge cap hit, he does come with a $3.76 million cap hit for any team that trades for him. That's not crazy money for a backup or even a developmental QB3, but it's not nothing. It's not a vet minimum situation. It's $2 million more than PJ Walker cost you right now, which is $1.66 million. So that's something to consider. Ryan Poles would like to carry over some money on the cap next year, and the more you spend, the less you're able to do that. So again, not major money, not chump change. So something to keep in mind. Number two, we've talked about him. Tyson Bagent's shown a lot. You could just roll with him as your backup or as your QB3 and keep PJ Walker and save that, $2 million and change that it would cost you extra to trade for Trey Lance. Bagent's looked good in the preseason, man. 13 of 15, $113. He's rushed for a touchdown. He actually has some decent mobility as well. Not as quick and fast as Trey Lance, but he's not a statue either. He's a guy who can move around. I think regardless of what the QB room looks like, Tyson Bagent needs to be in it, and I think he will be at the end of the day. And then one more. Do you really want to create a Justin Fields versus Trey Lance controversial situation? Because I can see it now. You trade for Trey Lance, you're 3 weeks into the season, and Fields is struggling a bit. Oh, put Trey Lance in there. Like, they were in the same draft. Lance went higher. Like, maybe he is the better talent. Like, do you want to create that in your locker room? Do you want the fan base to start spewing that type of stuff? Is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to trading for Trey Lance? Like, I actually do agree with what Cowherd's saying, that the Bears' backup QB situation isn't that good. I'm high on Bagent's potential, but he is an undrafted free agent. Like, Trey Lance hasn't really shown much in this league, but he's at least played a little bit and knows this offense. So I do understand that aspect of it. But do you want to bring him into the same QB room that Justin Fields is in, considering he was in the same draft as Trey Lance and will always be connected to Trey Lance? I don't know if I would go that route if I was Chicago. So just to recap, the pros and cons of trading for Trey Lance. The 49ers offense is similar. Lance has decent mobility, and the Bears' backup QB situation is not very good. The cons, Lance, of course, has a decent cap hit there. Tyson Bagent has shown a lot, so do you really want to, push him off to the side? And then the Fields versus Lance thing that I was just talking about feels like the juice is not worth the squeeze, if we're being completely honest. So I asked you the question. I'll ask you again. Knowing all that information I just passed along, would you trade for Trey Lance, Bears fans? And no more than a 5th-round pick. We're talking 5th or 6th-round pick. Type T for trade or P for pass. If you're asking me, I just don't think it's worth it. I think I'm going to pass on Trey Lance. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's show. Again, if we get 20 new subscribers from today's video, we will go live tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 Central Time. So if you want that to happen, hit that sub button.